Thanks very much. And to start again, thank Reed Corporate, Resource Rising Stars, Mining News and Acacia that have really helped put together a wonderful couple of days. It's been great to see the volume of investors that have been able to join us to listen to the stories of the miners and explorers and developers that are filling the room today. So welcome to the investors, and also I'd like to welcome the people that are watching online, wherever they may be. So CODRUS Minerals. Disclaimer to start, we can leave people to read that in their own free time. So what is CODRUS? So newly minted onto the ASX. We listed in mid-June of this year, so really only been around for 3.5 months. And the core focus is on 4 projects at the current time. And one of the key things about these projects and this company is that's different to a lot of companies is what we have here is 4 projects that each have genuine opportunity for discovery and for success. It's not one lead project and stocking fillers, it's actually 4 projects where each of them have great opportunity. We look at 3 projects in Western Australia and 1 project over in Oregon, in the Eastern Oregon in the US of A. Each of the projects that we stand at the moment are also receiving attention and work, and we are in a position where we'll be able to actually walk through all of these tenements in the next year and actually drill quality targets at each tenement. We have a quality management team on the board. We've got a really strong cash balance at $6.5 million and very well supported by a major shareholder with 46% in Blackstone Minerals. So as we work through, we can see that the capital structure is very tight. Market cap just at 12 million at the current time. So our leverage to success through exploration is really high. All of the projects are in really good jurisdictions, so Western Australia and Oregon in the US. We are sitting in a really wonderful position to be able to leverage off the knowledge and the history of what Blackstone have done on the projects and to actually move them forward. Blackstone wasn't a natural home for the assets, so the work to actually spin this out into CODRUS has really put us in a good position. In Australia, we've got 3 key projects. And one thing that they all have in common is that they are all within short trucking distance to existing operating mines. So that gives us the opportunity to not have to find a large standalone project. If we do find smaller deposits, we can look at actually leveraging off that value to supplement cash flow to fund exploration. We'll start with Redgate. Redgate's about 140 kilometres north of Kalgoorlie. It's in the Edudina province, which is a very hot spot in the gold exploration scene at the current time in Western Australia. We've got obviously Northern Star's Porphyry mine to the south of us that is shipping down to the Carosue Dam. And in the district, we've obviously seen the success of Nexus Minerals just around the Porphyry mine, and they come up and abut us to the south and to the west. And then there's been a real pegging rush through the district. CODRUS sits on the tenement, which is about 145 square kilometres, and we're seeing mineralisation that is similar in style and setting to what's seen at the Porphyry mine. The work has been done on the project historically by different explorers and operators through the 70s, 80s and some into the early 90s, but they focused on one very small patch of ground. One of the things that is key in this area is we've got Porphyry North. Porphyry North is a very small area, and in and of itself it is not economic, and it has been drilled to within a whisker of its life by previous tenement holders. But what it did prove is that there's gold in the district and that the gold is associated with pyrite. So the historic IP surveys at Porphyry North showed that there was a chargeability anomaly with the mineralisation. So we've gone through and actually done some larger IP surveys across the tenement. And what we were able to find is that we've got some larger IP signatures that are very much under-drilled. At Porphyry West, you can see in the long section there down to the south of Porphyry North, we can see a much larger intersection of a good conductor. The mineralisation there is also very favourable. It intersects like 12 metres at 9 grams per tonne and 13 at 3 that have never been followed up. So there is real opportunity in here, and we're getting ourselves set with a 2,500 metre RC program to commence in the next 10 days to go and test some of these targets, both follow up the intercepts that are sitting there unfollowed up and to go and drill some of these IP targets. Further to the south, we can see we've got another IP target called Arietta. This one has only 2 very shallow air core holes in the rough vicinity of the hole. What we can see is we've got a nice chargeability anomaly there, and again, it starts to look quite favourable from a structural setting when we overlay it with the magnetics. So we look to see some good news flow and hopefully seeing some assay results out if we can get them through the laboratory before Christmas. Heading further north, we get to the Middle Creek project. This is up in Nullagine. So we're up in the Pilbara here in between Newman and Marble Bar. In the district, we've got Novo Resources with the Beatons Creek mine that is now up and operating. They've refurbished Millennium's old Golden Eagle Mining Centre, so they've got the mill running there. So some less than 10 kilometres up to our tenements. Exploration at Middle Creek has really been focused over the years on 2 key things, the Blue Speck Fault and the Middle Creek Fault. Follow those 2 key faults, look for arsenic anomalism along those faults, and then work from there. The zone in between those 2 large faults has, by well and large, been left alone. But what we can see is where there is large structures, there is always going to be a multitude of subordinate structures that are generally tapping the same fluids. So this is where we see, again, a wonderful opportunity, and we're able to go up and peg all of these prospecting licences. And the one thing that was unique about this is there's not one drill hole in this area. And just off to the north, we've got the Blue Speck mine sitting on just on 300,000 ounces of very high grade that CODRUS are working up to truck up to their Warrawoona project up near Marble Bar. And we've got this wonderful first mover advantage into this large package in between the big faults and in a really well endowed area. We've been able to get on the ground, and the first thing we did on the ground was go in and do some soil sampling. The soil sampling really put us into a good position to get a first overview. We then went back and did some infill soils where we saw a little bit of anomalism, and then we went and did some rock chip sampling. And so in an area with no drilling, we've been able to go and rock chip up to 5 gram rock chip samples from surface. So we're looking forward to getting in here in the very near term. One of the key things we'll do is get onto these soils anomalies and do some trenching and ready ourselves for drilling at the end of summer next year. So we'll avoid the cyclone season and then be onto the ground as soon as we get through that season up there. The opportunity here again, and just to reiterate, is we don't have to be looking for 1 or 2 million ounce standalone deposits. If we find 500,000 ounces, 250,000 ounces, we've got neighbours that I'm sure would be very interested. Back down to the Kalgoorlie district, we've got Silver Swan South. Silver Swan South sits in a unique location, located between Kanowna Belle, the gold mine to the south of the map you can see there, which is a plus 5 million ounce prodigious gold deposit, and Black Swan and Silver Swan to the north, which are owned by Poseidon, and where they've recently had the Golden Swan nickel discovery. So here we've had the opportunity to look at the ultramafics from a nickel perspective, and then into the volcanoclastics and sediments from a gold perspective, and really trying to hone in on where the Fitzroy Shear comes into our tenements at the very south. The Fitzroy Shear is the controlling shear on mineralisation at Kanowna Belle. The maiden drill program saw us target gold intercepts that have been right at the base of transported cover. We had a fairly bold and audacious plan to go in with deep diamond drilling underneath these anomalies to really prove that there was going to be a good deposit there, see the right stratigraphy, and be able to move the project forward at light speed. What we encountered was not quite the follow-up in the gold. So it looks like that gold is sitting in the true transported period. But what we did find is that we had the right rocks, the right alteration, and the right setting for gold that is similar to Kanowna Belle. So that was really encouraging for us. So the next step here is to go through and have a look at what we can do in terms of vectoring in that alteration to try and find where we've got a little bit more of the pyrite and the sulphide that is generally coincident with the mineralisation if you're in the Kanowna Belle setting. We'll also be looking at the ultramafic units as they move to the north, at the very northern end of our tenements, and so we'll keep working on Silver Swan South with more targeting to come. Another project that is unique in the Australian setting would be the Bull Run project. It's sitting in eastern Oregon in the USA. Oregon was the centre of the gold rushes in Western America from the 1860s. So when we talk in Australia of Kalgoorlie and Coolgardie, Bendigo and Ballarat as being the gold rush towns, in Idaho and in Oregon, you're talking about Sumter, you're talking about Baker City, you're talking about Courtsburg, which surround our project. You're sitting out in cattle country, right out onto the edge of the border with Idaho, and it's an area that was built and born from mining of gold. Mining of the alluvials started in the 1860s, went through until about 1900, and when the alluvials ran out, the old timers started to work their way up the sides of the hills until they started finding outcropping quartz veins with gold, visible gold mineralisation sitting in the quartz veins. And that was their key, and then they just worked into those quartz veins. From the time we got to the start of World War I, mining was largely abandoned through the district and has barely restarted in any modern form. The one that is starting to work its way up is Grassy Mountain, an American project, 1 million ounces, and they're going through the permitting process in Oregon at the current time. So again, it's good to have one person treading those hallways of the regulators in front of you, proving that you can actually get a mine done and permitted in this area. And Grassy Mountain has been a great project for that for us. Once we get into the Bull Run project, we sit on 12 claims that we have an option over, and these claims are still worked today by artisanal, what we call hobby miners. They turn up to their mine, they go underground, they mine 2 or 3 cuts a year at plus an ounce dirt, and then go back to normal life. So we've got an option agreement which is $25,000 a year to explore as much as we want on those 12 claims. And then if we decide that we're finding really solid mineralisation, we have a very cheap option agreement to convert that to 100% ownership for $1 million. One of the key things that we see in this district is it's only ever been mined targeting very narrow high-grade mineralisation. No one's looked at trying to bulk this up in a modern format. What we can see from field visits is that the brown dacite veins that we have going up through here, and some of them are a bit andesitic as well, they're shot through with pyrite, and when we rock chip them, we've seen rock chips up to 3 grams, 3.5 grams. So these were of no interest to the old timers that were on narrow, small projects. We've been able to go in and then put a ring fence of about another 90 mineral claims right the way around this project. We're currently in the process of doing aerial surveying, so we can actually get aerial photography over the entire project so that we can do all of our permitting properly. We're going through the process of doing the drill permitting and bonding with both the Bureau of Land Management and the Department of Environmental Quality. We're also going in and surveying the old workings, so we've actually got a true and trusted measure of where these old workings go, both for safety and for targeting of mineralisation. And we'll also be doing some infill soils to the very south of the project. Historically, Newmont did come to the holders of this tenement, and they've held these mining claims for near on 100 years. And Newmont had an option agreement in the 80s. They drilled 3 holes. One hole was a duster and didn't get any mineralisation. Another hole hit 44 metres at 0.7, including 23 metres at 1.2. And then the last hole hit 20.5 metres at 3.5 grams a tonne from very near to surface. This wasn't, in the 80s, a Newmont scale project and didn't have the grade. But I think it gives us a wonderful opportunity to go into here with the first real pass of modern exploration and hopefully have great results to follow. We'll be looking to drill here early in the new year. We'll also have a 3D IP survey over the ground, and that will be starting this month and working its way through for about 30 days, and that'll give us another targeting tool, looking at those dacites with the sulphide in them. Can we actually see blowouts in those dikes that we can target? So very quickly, we've got indicative work schedules that see us being busy on all of those projects right the way through the next year. So every one of those projects have got genuine opportunity for discovery, as I mentioned earlier, and we've got good technical and well-funded programs to test them. So why would you invest in CODRUS? one, we've got great projects. Two, we've got the cash at the moment to really fund our own exploration and have the best opportunity to have discovery. We are boots on ground, dollars in the ground, low overheads and low burn rate. And we'd love to see as many people in this room today be investors in the business as we can. Thank you for your time.